Okay, guys, so we're going to get started today on our Lightroom editing I picked about 10, I think there are 11 of my favorite shots here. There are so many more that I really would like to go through, but I think for time's sake, we're going to be kind of limited. So what I'm going to do here, these are all actually copies of the final product, so I'm going to play with these. What we come up with here, you can see this guy. And so what I'm going to do here is completely reset this, and we will start all over. Let me look at my settings here just to make sure what we have. You can see basically I did my 80-80 there, and nothing else really. Okay, I did a pretty standard edit on this with my chronic aberration. Okay, so what we're going to do here is reset this photo. Now, there we go. That's what I started with. Okay, now, so let's get to the editing of this. Basically what I do, I've got a preset over here, and I'll show you what this preset does. It's called my basic start, and I've just set this up very simply. You'll look at the sliders over here, and the highlight and shadows you will see change. Let's go ahead and hit that. Boom. What I've done is set this up. I go to minus 80 on the highlights, plus 80 on the shadows. I've got plus 15 on contrast. That clarity is a little too high. I like to back that off to about 15 now. This is an old preset. We'll see. We'll adjust that. Our vibrance at 15, and I take a little bit off the top and bottom here in the tone curve. I go minus 10 on the highlights, minus 10 on the shadows. I don't do anything with a split toning on this. The detail, 80 is a bit high. Let's go back down to 50. Again, this was set a long time ago. So we're going to put this at around 50. What you see here on masking, if you put your finger on your Alt button on your keyboard for Windows, I don't know what the Mac is, but for the Windows, it's the Alt button. When you put your finger on the Alt button, hold it down, and then you left click and hold this down, you can see what this does. This would sharpen the entire photo. You usually don't want to do that. So if you pull this, I go to about 80, and then you see you only get, press it down again, you only get those details that are sharpened. So for instance, his shirt, his jeans, those are not sharpened. You don't need those sharpened, just the outline. So I like to do that with all the photos. And I make that as a preset, and that's all. Oh, I'm sorry, we go down here to your chronic aberration. Right there, you click that, then you go to color, and you pull it over to about 5 or so, and that'll take away any of that purple tinge that you have back there. And that's all I do as a basic setup, and I have that over here. And the way you would do this, by the way, now that you've got this set the way you like it, and you want to use this for all your photos, you just go up here to Develop, New Preset. You would choose everything except the lens correction, because if you've changed anything, cropping, stuff like that, you don't want that to be in there for every photo. So I just leave off all of the lens correction, all of the effects. If you've used any filters or anything, you'd want to take those off as well, but I have, as far as I know, there are no filters here. But anyway, so then you would just hit Create. Okay, you've got to give it a title. We'll just leave it Untitled Preset, and you just hit Create, and then it pops up over here. And now, if I go over here to my Moody Green, which will take this into a weird, not very good, then I go back here to Untitled Preset, boom, there we are. We are right back at where we started. So now I just need to do some other things that I want to do with this, and that would be to give it a crop. I don't like this. I wanted to highlight his face, the cell phone hitting at me, so I'm going to go in like that. There we go. I don't like this chair in the picture, so I'm going to pull that out a little bit. We've cropped very tight, but that's okay because I wanted to show off up here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to highlight his face a little bit. Okay, it's just a little in the shadow there. He was coming at me. The shadow was from behind. So we're going to pull down this tool right over here, the Radial Filter, and we're going to put it here in front of his face. The rest of these will go a little quicker because I'll be using that preset and won't have to explain it to you. And we double click to get everything back to 0. And then what I like to do is pull some shadow out, give a little bit, a little bit of contrast, but clarity. I want the clarity in there, so now we need to pull a little bit more of those shadows out of there. And take some of the highlights off, add a little bit of exposure. Again, don't look fake, so you got to take some of that highlight out of there, and that spreads it out fairly nicely. There we go. And you can see here before and now after. again, I want to show you how clear this Ricoh GR III is. Look how crisp and clear that is, and this is blown way up. I mean, look at that. Look at that mustache there. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, the teeth, everything. That's just incredible. But again, as you remember, we started out with the vertical. So this is blown way up, and I think it looks, for what it is, it looks very nice. Okay, let's continue on now. So we go to number 2, but I'm going to go ahead and use our Untitled preset and see what happens here. Ooh, that wasn't very good. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's pull this back out here. Okay, so it just now went back to the reason that got darker is because the exposure is off, so we pull that exposure up, and there we go. Now we're kind of back in it. So this was set a little different than the other one, so I'm going to pull some of that out, pull some of the shadow back in. I'm highlighting these ladies, make sure I've got nothing there. I've got no, there we go. So again, we're just kind of, we still got our 10-10 there. We do have our chronic aberration still there because, again, I used that preset that we just made. That's how simple that is. So there's really not a lot I need to do this. If you go down here to your sharpen, you'll see that if I put my finger on the Alt button right there, look what we're getting in sharp. There we go. So I like that. Again, these would be something I would play with a little more if I were not doing this video. But for the most part, if you don't like it being real light right there, you can see it kind of lit up there in the middle. You can, again, pull down this. This is right over here, your Radial Filter. I love this Radial Filter. And if you go back to normal, you see that. I can pull out some of the shadow here a little bit if I wanted. I could bring up the clarity somewhat. A number of things you want to do there. But I mean, it is what it is. So there's our photo. Now we move on to this one. This was our what I call the meter maid, and unfortunately she was not insulted. She was some sort of, I don't know what she was, an engineer or something, I'm not sure, but she had a good title. And again, so what we're going to do here, take a look at this one. We've got our basically close to our 80-20 preset there. Ooh, I really changed a lot in this. And up here in the contrast, everything as well. All this, once again, stays about the same. So I tell you what, we're just going to go ahead and reset. There we go. Look how dark that is. Now let's go back to our preset, and it still will be dark, but you can see the clarity and things like that got a little better. So let's go ahead and pull her on up here a little bit, and there we have it. That's a little, just a little bland. So I'm going to, what can I do to her to make her not as bland? Maybe a little light in this one. There we go. Again, these colors are terrible colors. These street colors are just hard to do anything with. I will tell you, by the way, you can see this is going this way. This is going this way. So what we want to do, this is the first photo we've had where we've had lines like that. Oh, we didn't, why isn't our chronic aberration in? There we go. Aberration. Huh. Okay. Now, here's what we want to do right here. Oh, that's because we did not put that in our lens correction. So over here we do not have that. I'll need to add that. When we made our preset, you'll remember I did not choose the lens correction. So I probably want to go and change that. But at any rate, I just added it in there. Now, these right here, whoops, as you can see. Okay, let's look, by the way, at our clarity of our Ricoh GR III. Look at that. Just look at that. Look how crisp. That's the Ricoh GR III APS sensor. Just look at that. That's amazing. Okay, so we want to straighten these. So we'll just go over here to our auto, see what that does. And that straightens those. Look at that. Great job. That's all you need. There we go. Bing, bang, boom. We're done. So let's go ahead and take a look up here what we did. Ooh, we did a lot of difference on this one. We did not use a preset on this one, it looks like. So let me just go ahead and reset it all. There we have it. Now I know this was 33 because I was just looking at it. So I'm going to put that back up there. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. I want to pull this up a little bit. Give it some, there we go. Now you can see here, we can get a pretty nice, I'm just going to go here and use our preset that we made, see what happens. Okay, let me pull this back up here a little bit. But let's just get rid of our, there we go. Bring our, we definitely need to pull that up there a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is a situation where I want to get rid of these. There we go. And well, I've got to leave that because he's in the corner there. Could even pull this in a little bit if you really wanted to highlight him. See, what I don't like is that light pull there, but you really can't see it, so we'll just leave that there. Now, this is a tighter crop than what I had, but you can see here, he's a little blurry, so this wasn't the best shot, but he was on his bike and he was riding. It's still clear enough that we're good enough to go with this, and as you saw, I used it as a thumbnail. People liked it, so so I put this there. That is, again, our radial filter. And I'm going to pull that up a little bit, pull our clarity up a little bit. You see it got a little darker, so what we need to do is pull our shadow up, bring some of our highlight down. And you don't want it to look too fake, so you want to spread it out a little bit. That way you don't, it's not only his face. And there we go, and now we can see his face fairly well. Again, this was not a completely clear photo. Now I'm kind of not liking this crop at all because of the way this is over here. So you almost sometimes have to go back to a fuller crop. There we go. Okay, we'll leave that as is. Okay, and as we move on, number 4 or 5 here, this guy, want to buy a Leica? Okay, so as you can see, let's go ahead and reset this guy. There we go. Not much difference. Obviously, there was no difference in the cropping whatsoever. Did not recrop. And let's go here to basic start. That's a pretty good start there, although that pulls out our, we do want our highlights in this one. Okay, let's pull back our shadows a little bit, and I'd say that's already okay. We could give him a little something there in the face if we wanted. It's really clear. Again, the Ricoh GR III, no need for a Leica. Look at that. Just look at that. Incredible. Okay, there we are. That photo is ready to go. Okay, so move on to this one. This was a unique one. This was a guy, and I didn't realize that until literally I edited this photo. I did not pay attention. I could not see that close up when I was there. He was sitting, and I might have called him Hun a couple times. I'm not sure. So, okay, so here is our original. Look at that. So let's rebuild this. Now, first of all, I'm going to pull out some black and whites here, so hang tight. Okay, so with this guy, what we want to do here is, actually this crop's not bad. I just didn't like the cars there, so I think I made this a vertical, if I remember from just a moment ago, and pulled it in. There we go. We just tightened up on him. And not much we can do there. We can go ahead and pull this in. And again, once again, this is a tool I go to quite often, as you see, because of shadowing in the face, that radial filter. We'll just go right here. And we're not just, you don't want to do that. You just want to pull a little bit, but most of it's going to be in the shadows because his face is in the shadows. Pull some of this highlight down. We do want to get a little clarification in there. That's not what that's called, but okay. The clarity. And pull his face up a little bit more. Pull the highlights down just a hair. And again, it's tough to work with something like that in the shadows, but there we go. So again, let's go to before and after. There we go. Not a whole lot of difference, but of course you'll see, before I cropped it. Okay, so there we go. You could tighten that up a little bit. I could probably go down here, probably for the first one here that we've done this on, would give a little bit of vignetting. There we go. Just enough. So we'll pull that down a little bit. And then because we did that, we need to go up here and then add some highlights. So there we go. Good enough. All right, you can pull that in a little bit, maybe crop a little bit up. And there we have it. So let's move on to a black and white. Let's check our dogs here. This is an interesting one. Now, this is a black and white. I don't know that I have a preset for this. I might have used possibly. And let's see, I've got one here, but as you can see, there's not much on here that would be unusual other than we've got our exposure cranked way up, our contrast cranked way up. So I'm just going to go ahead and reset. And there we go. So to get to black and white, we go up here and we hit our black and white. We're in black and white. Now, I want to pull some of that down, pull some of that up, and let's just go ahead and get in here. There we go. Anytime you use black and white, you want to crank up your contrast quite a bit, crank up some clarity, and pull this down. I always just do minus 910, minus 910, and go up here to our sharpening. Again, we want to go to, again, I'm doing all of this one manually. So finger on the Alt button, also on the left mouse, and there we go. Everything there that you see in white will be sharpened. Let me pull on down here. Okay, so we've got this. Now, what do we want to do with this? Well, let's see. We can't do a lot of cropping because we've got her up there, the dog's here, all this blank space here. I don't really care for that, but we'll deal with it. That's the way the shot was taken. I was surprised the dogs came up that quick. So once again, we're going to go back up to our radial filter, and we're going to pull out this dog face here a little bit from complete black to, again, those shadows are really what cranks it up. Take away some of that, add some clarity. Those eyes, we'll make sure we get some of the eyes in there. Same thing with this little guy here. Let's pull up some there, pull up some shadows, kill some highlights, pull up some clarity, and then we will go in and pull our black or our shadows down a little bit, and maybe give it a little light touch there. So I would love to have this as a square. Everything I do is I keep it in 3:2 format. So now I can pull this up a little bit and then do some vignetting, but that just kind of cuts off the dog there a little bit. So there's what we have. Sometimes black and whites don't come out the way you like. But anyway, so that's what we have there for that black and white. Now, I want to go ahead and find another black and white. So I'm going to go into, these are my shots here. This one, let's see. Okay, this guy here, you can see, let's make a quick, this is what we started with. This is what we ended with. You can see I really did a number on this one. So let's go ahead and make a copy of this, which you would go, you right-click, go here to create virtual copy. And then now we have a virtual copy. Now the virtual copy on the before and after only shows because you started with this, so that's all it shows. So it will not show the original. So we're going to look at that and see what we can come up with on our own. And there we have it. So now we need to go to black and white. You can go down into here in your black and whites and start using these, bringing out the skin tones, things like that, killing things you don't want. See how that'll work. Doesn't really do what we want to do with that. So I'm going to, well, I'm just going to reset everything again. Go back up here, hit black and white. Now, let's add some, we're going to add a lot of contrast, add some clarity. We're going to kill that. We'll bring some shadows down as well. Okay, we're going to kind of kill our blacks here. And we'll do that. We'll do that. Let's, I don't really like that, so let's go to our black and white start there, which just adjusted some of these, took our saturation completely out, and play with that. Again, I'm sure I used, now this is the first time I'm using a gradient filter, and we just want to highlight our shadow there. We want to make it more shadowy, stronger shadow, so you pull that down, and that does pull a little bit of that. Pull some highlights down a little bit. Pull our contrast up, pull our saturation, well, it doesn't matter. We can give a little more clarity. Actually, you see the clarity adds brightness. You can dull it up a little bit here, but I tend to go back up to the contrast, and look at that, I just got it cranked all the way, and that's just for those shadows. Let's pull our highlight down a little bit again, and there we go. That looks a little better there on the ground. Now we just got to work with this top up here. So what are we going to do with that? Let's add some clarity. Let's add some, let's take away some highlight. We'll add some contrast. Pull our shadows. We've got that face is what I'm trying to get. Let's crop this as well. There we go. Okay. Now, we're losing him up here, so I'm going to go back to our radial filter, and I'm going to pull this, and we're going to turn it. You see how it turns there? You just turn it. And now we're on the top of his body. So now we can add a little bit of something there. Again, you don't want it to look fake, but you could make it look like the sun is just touching him somehow, or a reflection or something, in order to bring out some of his skin tone. And okay, so let's pull that a little bit that way, a little bit that way, bring it up. Okay, so I don't like all this white in there, so I'm going to go use our brush, which I'm not sure we've used yet. So here's our brush. We've got our exposure down just a tad. I probably will want the shadows down as well. Well, I'm sorry, we want the highlights down is what we want. And we're just going to make a swipe here. And yeah, we do. And there you go. You see that pulled that down just a little bit. So for a quick edit, there we go. For our black and white, just kind of a quick edit. And let's see. Again, the clarity is very, very nice on this. Very nice. So something to play with there. Now, I wanted to go back to the ones that I had planned on doing for this. Whoops, I'm sorry, that was supposed to be red. So now I want to go back and sort. So here we are. Okay, one more here or two more that I want to tackle. This one right here. This one is, I'm going to go ahead and make another virtual copy of this because this is a difficult one. This was a difficult one to do. Now I'll reset this one. And look where we're at with that. That's amazing. Compared to here, as you can see, we didn't quite do the 80-20 on that, but let's go here. And we're going to, let's go ahead and go to our basic, well, we'll go to that Untitled preset, the one we created earlier. Didn't do anything really. And we want to pull this, our exposure, way up here. Keep that down there. We want to, okay, our clarity's fine. Everything else is fine. Highlights. Now, what's going to save this photo is going to be the gradient filter. And see, every time you use it from before, you need to reset that just to make sure. And we'll pull that across there a little bit. Well, we probably didn't need to reset it because we wanted to kill some of our highlight there, bring up some of our contrast and clarity. Now, we want to go to, let's go ahead and go back also to our radial filter, and we want her to look nice. And we want to bring her and highlight her. So let's add a little punch there. Some clarity. Take away some of the highlights, take away the shadows, and as you can see, that really just brings her out quite nicely compared to that, not and now. So you might add a little more clarity in there just to really sharpen her up. Now, what I don't like yet still is this is a little light, and so what I want to do, how do I want to darken that up a little bit? Probably we could go over here to down to our colors, our red luminance, and bring that down a little bit. Saturate it more. We can add a little more exposure onto this. Let's add some exposure and then take some of the, get rid of our chronic aber. There we go. Okay, and now we're just going to take away a little bit. There we go. Just frame her in just a hair, not too much to make it look bad, but I don't know that does anything. Yeah, it does a little bit. However, I'm still not thrilled with this gradient filter here. Well, something about that I don't care for. But at any rate, okay, let's go ahead back down here. And we're going to, okay, our saturation, we did add some red. Let's add some, we don't want to add too much in there. Maybe add a little bit of red back in, and that's what we've got. We want to change our hue. Okay, so there we have that. Now the one that we started with there, so it looks like, actually I almost like this one better. It just, the one thing that needs to be done is down here to our, again, I'm not sure what this is called, the balance level aspect ratio. You've got a few options here. I usually just go to auto. We'll watch this over here and see what happens. Yep, that did. That cranked it up just fine. Actually, I like that one better than I like the one that I started with. Look at that. Look at the difference. And this, so Now, again, this was, so we're going to go back to this one, and we're just going to completely reset it, since that's the one I'm not going to keep. Look at that. Look at the difference in that compared to the one we just did. Again, this could be a little more red. It could be a little darker. You could play with that. And you do get some noise around here. If you wanted to get rid of some of that noise, you can see it there a little bit. Then we just go down here to noise reduction, luminance. Crank that to 5. If we take it off, okay, there it's on. And if we take it off, you saw it just softened her up a little bit. Let's take it off again. There we go. As you can see, that's not very good. Do this, and I hope you can see it. It just blurred it enough that and again, you're looking at it from here. So if you're posting these social media, something like that, you're going to do just fine. Okay, I'm going to go to one more, maybe two more here. This one, let's go ahead and make a copy of this one, create virtual copy, and let's just go ahead and reset this one and see what we started with. Okay, so we didn't change much. We went from here to here, and I'd almost like to see this as a black and white, I think, honestly, because all we would have done here is we go back to our preset that we made earlier, and then we undo the highlight, and there we almost have what. There we go. I mean, it's so I don't care for that. Let's go ahead and just play with this one and make this one a black and white. So now we've got, well, let's just go ahead and reset completely. Now let's go ahead and we'll go down here to this one. No difference really. Just make that a black and white. As you go through each of these little, there you go. You can see her arm. Look at her arm. Darker, lighter. Okay, and we want to pull her out. See, now the orange makes her lighter. I want to pull her out of the background. The yellow isn't doing a lot of her, but I can pull it here and darken the background. The green, I kind of like that little bit there, if we're going to leave this as 3-2. The aqua, okay, it brings her up a little bit, so we'll leave that. The blue definitely brings her out more. Okay, we'll leave that up there. Probably get rid of the purple and the magenta. Now we've got this. This is not very pretty. Actually, I don't really care for that stuff now. So there we go. We want to keep that blue up. But the orange, yep, we want to keep that orange up a little bit as well. All this in here. If you want to keep this, you could crop this down, of course, to a vertical and just have her walking along, and there's no other editing. Whoop, we got our shadow in there. I didn't see the shadow. So I always like to get that little shadow, but then we've got this over here. If you weren't playing with the shadow, then we go up here, and there you have it. But let's just go ahead and go back to horizontal, and we'll frame her just like this, and let's see what we need to do. Now, let's go ahead and take our brush, and we're going to basically just get rid of all this right here. And you can play with this and actually bring it up if you wanted to contrast her. And for instance, one way to do that was bring a new brush out, and there we go. Add some clarity, and now you've got this where you're showing some of the surroundings. So nothing wrong with that, and I kind of like that. I do like that actually over that, and that's just got a little too much contrast to it. But there's something about her there that I just don't care for. Again, the sensor and everything on this Ricoh GR III just gives you so much room to play with. So those are some of our photos there. I hope that helped a little bit. If there's other things you would like to see, please let me know, and I can pull some other photos out. These were some of my favorites. And again, I could go on all day with these, but hopefully that'll give you some idea of how I do the editing in Lightroom for my Ricoh GR III street photos. So if you have any questions, guys, please just let me know. Hopefully this was informative, entertaining, and if so, please like, please subscribe, and we'll get some more videos coming out soon. All right, guys, I appreciate the view.